to talk about my Selmer clarinets. For such a long time you have been asking about my Selmer clarinets, why I chose them, if I'm really happy with them, why I use Selmer, and for how long I'm playing with Selmer clarinets, and if there is any positive or negative sides about it, etc. So I will answer all of your questions in this video. So first of all, I would like to talk about the other clarinets I have used before I chose Selmer. My grandmother helped me. Thanks to her, I had my very first clarinet, which was a Buffet Crampon E13 model. It's a very good model actually, especially for the beginners. I used actually these clarinets for almost 5-6 years. And I was really happy at the beginning actually. And I think E13 is a really good student model clarinet. But of course, then I decided that I will really become a professional musician. And I was already studying in a music high school. And then my professor was also pushing me, you need a professional model now if you're gonna do this as a job. Thanks to my family, they helped me to afford it, and also I had some scholarships, etc. I could afford a new clarinet. My very first professional clarinet was a Buffet Crampon Festival model. I didn't have a chance to go and choose this clarinet. The best thing I would do was to ask to the solo clarinetist of the orchestra. I asked him if he could help me because he was always traveling to Paris to visit his family there. He went to the Buffet Crampon's factory and he chose a festival model clarinet for me. It was really nice clarinet. It was amazing. After E13, it was like I really felt that I was finally playing with a professional model clarinet. I was so happy at the beginning. I mean, the story is always the same. I was always really happy at the beginning with every clarinet I bought because it was something new, something for sure better. At the moment, the best clarinet was Buffet Crampon brand, because in many countries, a lot of professors, they always played with Buffet Crampon clarinets and they always thought that this is the best brand and it's the most well-known. Their advertisements are on the top and they have a good marketing. That's why everybody knows Buffet Crampon and they think it's really the best. Of course it can be the best for some people, but at the moment I didn't have another choice because everyone was like, yeah, some people play with Selmer, some people play with Yamaha, but you know Buffet Crampon is the best. So I decided for a festival because my professor was using the same model. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, because I think a lot of people choose their clarinets model because their professor used the same one, which I don't approve. I mean, I don't blame anyone for that, but it's just the tradition which continues like this. And I never tell my students to buy Selmer clarinets because I think they are the best for me. So it's something really personal, and I think before you buy any clarinet, you should really go search for each model. After 2 years, I moved to France. I was studying the college degree actually in France. I started there, and my professor was Michel Letiec. One day I was in a competition in Italy. I talked to the jury members about why I didn't pass the first round. You know, I was 19 years old, and my professor Michel, he was also one of the jury members, and he was like, yeah, go talk to everyone. They both said the same thing about my sound, and they judged kind of like the clarinet I'm using, because they were both like, I could hear that you are a Buffet player. This is not something bad. They are not judging Buffet Crampon clarinets. But at the moment, I thought that they are being ridiculous to blame me by playing Buffet Crampon. But I understood later, much later, what they mean. Then I realized that my sound was really much worse than the other people in the class. I never thought about it before actually. I was just, used to hear that I'm a good clarinet player, and that's why I got in his class in France. Suddenly, two of best clarinetists in the world, if it's right to say, tell me that I have a problem with the sound. Then Michel explained me what I'm doing wrong, and then I decided to try his clarinets one day. He was using Signature model, and I was like, wow, the sound is much better. At this moment, I realized this is the resistance I was searching for. My Buffet Crampon clarinets were kind of too easy, and they would sound like easier, I have a feeling that they needed less air to make a sound. I played Selmer, and technically it was weird, because the keys are different. The sound, I cannot forget that moment of like waking up. Woo! Like the sound is so nice. And I was forcing myself with Buffet Crampon clarinets for such a long time for nothing. So after trying his clarinets and having this good first impression, we had a lot of Selmer players actually in the class, and also in the other clarinet class. So I tried all of them, and also different models. This is the new Privilege model that they made with Selmer company, but at that moment I think they had first time new Privilege, but which is the old Privilege now. I tried all of them, and for me the best was Signature. For schools and for some youth orchestras, I started with the auditions at that moment, and I just realized that I need an A clarinet too anyways. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to buy a pair of clarinet from the same series and made at the same time, and like clarinets which really suit each other. That's why Michel suggested me to buy at the same time. So I was financially ready. We took a rendezvous, a date to choose the clarinets. And there was Sébastien Fontaine, who repairs the clarinets, and also Stéphane Gentil, who is the director of Selmer. They helped me a lot. I was with Michel anyways, my professor. I tried once more some recital clarinets, and I found recital at that moment like really closed sound. For me, it was not enough harmonics in the sound, and I thought that all recital clarinets were sounding quite the same, and it didn't let me to find my own sound. And it was just like putting me in a kind of box. Then I found it really, really heavy. I already had some issues before, kind of little injuries. I didn't want to push it. So I decided to go for Signature clarinet. I bought them at the beginning. I was so happy with those clarinets. I was amazingly happy. The sound was much better, the intonation was much better than Buffet. I was finally making my music like as I wanted always. But I think I made some mistakes about the breaking in process. Because when you buy first your clarinets, you have to play only like 5-10 minutes a day, like at top. And I was just so excited, and I had my exam. Also, Michel told me it's better that it cracks now at the beginning than in a year or so. I don't know, it was his idea. So I listened to him and nothing happened. But in a year, I went on the mountains for a masterclass in France. It's a really high up the mountain. And I was playing with my A clarinet, and I heard this. It cracked, like after almost a year. The crack was like, I will show my new clarinet, but it's not cracked, thank God. It was like, it started from here. But the good thing about Selmer clarinets is that first they construct the clarinet, and then they put the inside part of the holes later. So they place them later, so the cracks don't go inside of the hole. So this was good news that the crack stayed until the hole and it didn't go to the octave key. So at least I could still play with the clarinet. I just needed some repair. But then, after a year, I went some other places. I don't remember right now. I was traveling and it was getting worse. And then I moved to Switzerland, like 3 years later, to do my master degree. And there it's like really dry air and it's cold. The crack became crazy and I was doing a lot of auditions. I was moving to another different places. My A clarinet was completely cracked the whole way around. It was the worst nightmare I ever had in my life. Of course, after that experience I had, I decided that I might need a new clarinet. But of course, it was financially really difficult. I was already living in a really expensive country, such as Switzerland. So it took me so much time to switch to a new clarinet. And at this moment, I realized that maybe I could find some new barrel, because you know, with this crack, the intonation problem started and I had to play Mozart Clarinet Concerto Exposition on the first round on each audition. It was just not working. Then I decided to switch some barrels. My professor gave me this idea, and my professor at the moment was Fabio Di Casola. He gave me this idea to switch some mouthpieces, etc. I tried Leger reeds, I tried Play Easy mouthpieces. I used Play Easy mouthpieces for a while, and I used Bakun barrels. It helped me for a year. I played with Play Easy mouthpieces, didn't like Leger reeds, but I played with Bakun barrels, but my B-flat clarinet was also out of tune. Then I talked to Michel. I was like, what happens to my clarinets? I mean, beside the crack, I have intonation problems also on my B-flat clarinet, and I'm really disappointed by Selmer. Only 5 years I was playing with these clarinets, and I was expecting to keep them at least 10 years. So it was exactly 4 years ago. I went to play in an orchestra, and I met a colleague there. We were playing together. He was playing with this Privilege clarinets. He also told me, oh, you have some intonation problems with your clarinets, but you know, new Privilege models don't have these problems. They are amazing. If you want to switch to a new clarinet and if you want to keep Selmer, I suggest you to switch to Privilege. I tried these clarinets. They were amazing. And I felt the difference in a second. And I was like, wow, I'm forcing myself for no reason with my signature clarinets. So I contacted the music shops in Switzerland and I found only 5 pairs of Privilege model. And also they had some old Privilege model just to compare. And I tried them, but none of them were suitable for me. And anyways, I didn't have the money to afford it. Then I played in another orchestra. I came back to Istanbul and I met another colleague. I tried her Privilege clarinet. I was again in love with her clarinet. I liked both of my colleagues' clarinets. I will just ask them how they chose it. And they told me that both of them went to the factory and chose their clarinets there between a lot of clarinets. And they were not alone in the factory. So I was like, okay, I will contact Michel again and I will go to the factory. I will do the same way. But how? I don't have the money for this. And some miracle happened. My school wanted to give a scholarship for students' studies or to buy a new instrument. And I got it. Then I had finally the money to afford new clarinets. I knew what to do, but I just wanted to make it sure. Because, you know, I was like, okay, Celine, you played with Selmer. You heard so many people with crack problem. So you have to try as much as clarinet you can, and then you decide for Selmer for sure. Also, another miracle happened. It was a time of the year of clarinet days in my school. So all the clarinetists around Switzerland came to Zurich, and all the expositions of all the brands that you can ever imagine of clarinet. Yamaha was there, Buffet Crampon was there, Selmer was there, Bakun, and also some Segelke clarinets. They were all there, and I tried everything, like literally everything. And I was like, okay, Selmer, new models, this Celes. They have this sign on all of them. All of them are great. And I just realized that Selmer did some new student model clarinet with this Celes, you know, like this new models. They were all amazing. And I was sure that I'm going to buy Selmer. So why? When I tried Buffet Crampon after Selmer, it was impossible to play with it. Some people switch to Buffet after Selmer. It's also possible. I'm not saying that it's an impossible thing. But for me, it was impossible for the sound. Because once you get used to Selmer's sound, I think it's really difficult to go back to Buffet. And some people who went back to Buffet or who switched to Buffet, they told me always the same, yeah, I miss my Selmer sound, but you know, it's better to play with Buffet because, yeah, for some marketing reasons. It's really sad to say. And some orchestras also want Buffet, some schools want Buffet. There are some stuff happening like this still, I guess. I mean, that was my experiences. But thank God I was never forced to play any clarinet for any reason. So I stick to Selmer Clarinets. And also, after playing with Selmer Clarinets for such a long time, you get used to the technique and also the resistance. You know, I played with Buffet Crampon and there was no resistance, and it was really impossible to play. And also the keys were completely different, and it's really small. For example, Tosca, you know, they have really small keys, and my little finger is really short. I couldn't even reach those keys like comfortably on that clarinet. I don't know, I just found it a little bit uncomfortable. It wasn't possible. And I was getting closer to Bakun clarinets, actually. They have this model like Cocobolo with these golden keys. A lot of good clarinet players use that clarinet. One of the principal clarinets in Geneva, she was using these clarinets. She was one of my former professors in Lausanne. We played in the same orchestra one day, and I tried her clarinet, and then I was also like, wow, Bakun is also nice actually. You know, it's really light. It's great about that. I mean, you can play with this clarinet whole day without any pain, I think. And for technique, of course, it helps. But somehow, about the sound, again, I had some questions in my mind. I mean, the intonation was really nice. Technically, it was easy. It was, I mean, you could get a really nice sound without any too much force. The intervals, everything was working really well. But I liked Selmer's sound better. I also tried some Segelke clarinets. My former professor Fabio was playing with them. They are really expensive, and you order that clarinet, it arrives in 2 years, maybe a year if you're lucky. If I remember well, it's like this, and you don't get the chance to choose them actually, because they prepare them, like make them for you, and then they send them to you, and then you play with that clarinet, which was kind of weird for me, and it would be really radical change for me to do such a thing like that. So after all these big thoughts about all these clarinets, I decided to go for Privilege model. So I was in Paris with Michel Letiec and again Sébastien Fontin and Stéphane Gentil. They all helped me a lot to make a choice, and I was of course so happy. Actually, for the first time in my life, I am still happy with my clarinets, and I really wish it will continue like this. So let's have a closer look at it. I'm going to show you on the other barrel that I'm not really using very much, because on the other one the white color is a little bit gone, because I touch it all the time and my hands are always sweat. So this is the barrel that I use less, which is a shorter one, to play a little bit sharper. You see that there is this logo of Selmer and it's written Privilege here with some kind of flower stuff on it, and it's written the number of the barrel, and this one is for A clarinet, so it's written A here. So it's basically the only difference between A and B flat clarinets. It's written A on the other one and written nothing on this one, so you don't mix which barrel was for which clarinet. And in the orchestra it helps me a lot, because sometimes I just take the clarinet and I'm like, okay, I'm with which one? Oh, A, okay. You know. And talking about the logos, there is also this one. It's written Privilege on it, and you can see that it's different. Selmer was the first brand who made these black passages in between the parts of the clarinet. I was really in love with it. Also, you see here it's the same. It's all black. I think it looks really classy. Also, when I saw the clarinet first time, you know, there were stuff like, you know, for example, here is different with the pad. There isn't any cork under it. There is a cork here. And also here there is this black, some kind of soft thing like a pad. Also there are some other things which are different on the clarinet, such as here you can see it. It's like there's a wood and there's no cork on it. The cork is under the key and stuff like that. And I think the design is really well thought. And also these keys are different. Also behind is different. I just managed to make it a little bit more comfortable, because I told you I have sweaty hands and it just slides if I don't put anything which would hold my finger. Most beautiful thing about the design is that there is this little flower thing on this key. I hope you can see it clearly. Some people see that and they also mention, wow, it's really pretty, you know. Also that black thing I was talking about under the octava key, it's the same for this A key. So there's no cork under the key, but there is this black thing under it. So, which makes it actually a little bit complicated when I bring it to make repair, because if they don't have the black, just they want to put a cork or something which would look like ugly. That's why I found the solution myself, but I'm going to talk about it in another video. So I already talked about that, but all the holes are made differently from the other clarinets too. Selmer first constructs the clarinet body, and then the keys are replaced into the key later. So it's like a completely different part, so that the crack doesn't go inside, which is a really, really big positive point. Let's have a look at it for the last time. There is this logo. Yeah, you will ask why it's an S. Is it an S of Selmer? No, two S coming together like Selmer and Celes. They made a clarinet together. They supported Selmer, some kind of thing. And that's why it's an S here. And my name is Celine, so I really love this. It suits me a lot. Other positive side of the clarinet is not only the sound, of course, not the technique. It's like, you know, some technical facilities also on the higher octava, because I just made some videos about high notes. I think this Privilege clarinet really helps me also to reach those notes with a nice sound, because I think the other clarinets have this tendency to go a little bit like, also not the right intonation, but also the sound gets a little bit like more brighter. They just, you know, don't have this resistance to take the air support and give the response back. So I think it's really worth to try these clarinets out about that also. Also, the other models of these Celes, I told you that they're also really nice. Especially there are some student models such as Présence, Prologue. I also tried them. If you cannot afford a professional model, or if you don't want to afford a professional model, if you don't need it, you can just also go for them. I think they're much better than student models of Buffet Crampon, because I also played with E13, and if I had any idea about Selmer Clarinets, I would totally try to find a Selmer student model. If you really want to afford a clarinet which would really suit you, and if you really want that clarinet like suits you, just search more. Try to find some Selmer clarinets. Be sure that you tried everything, then that clarinet suits you the most, and then decide that this clarinet is the best for you. These clarinets are a little bit heavy. First time I bought it, I really need to work out on my hand. I just bought a thing to improve my muscles. My former professor Fabio Di Casola suggested me to use that because he also had some problems before. I used that actually, yeah, I have to admit that at the beginning when I got Privilege, it was even a little bit heavier than Signature clarinets, but it's still less heavy than Recital. I think it's the heaviest one still, but it's much heavier than Buffet, much heavier than Bakun, much heavier than Segalke clarinet. Talk about another negative point is that my clarinet, after all, a fabrication clarinet, it's not made personally for me, so of course there are some negative sides too that you can find, but you can work on it. But here I have only one little thing. For example, this E, and on the octava this B is a little bit flat. It doesn't help me in the orchestra, it doesn't help me in chamber music. I was thinking to make it repair, like, you know, making a little bit opening in the hole, but I just don't dare, because then I'm really afraid of ruining the other notes intonation. So I just leave it like this. I just know that my clarinet has this little problem and I work on it. Well, to finish the video, I just would like to mention that I am really happy with my sound. I'm really happy technically with Privilege. It's, you know, the keys are really light. I was really happy also about the wood this time because I had no cracks. If you search for a really round sound, if you want to get a centered tone, also if you want a really nice intonation, I totally suggest. So I really hope that with this video, even if it's a little bit, I helped you what I think about Selmer Clarinets and other clarinet brands. I hope that you will also find your perfect one day and you will work it out. If you have any questions about Selmer Clarinets, please write in the comment below, and please like the video if you really liked it, and if you could also subscribe to my channel, it would really mean a lot for me. Hope you enjoyed. Goodbye and see you next time.